My name is Leo Smith. I'm in Mr. West Period 3 Engineer Architecture 2 class at Joliet Central, and this is my 2024 CO2 Dragster project. The goal for this project was to make a wooden CO2 powered dragster that could race down a straight track the fastest. Before I designed my dragster, I had to do some research. Coming into this project, I had no idea how to even make a CO2 dragster, so I needed to get a vision of previous designs to understand how this project worked. I also did some research on aerodynamics, weight reduction, how to reduce drag, what laminar flow was compared to turbulent flow, and friction. In my research, I found that certain shapes like ellipses and airfoils were more aerodynamic than triangles and rectangles. I learned that the fastest cars had the least amount of weight because weight increases friction. If I wanted to reduce drag, I needed to make my car as smooth as possible with no rough edges. Finally, I learned that turbulent flow is what can kill the speed of a car, and there are ways to combat this. Once I had done my research, I had an idea of what my dragster would look like, and I created a sketch using that idea. In my sketch, I made the height and width smaller to try and take some weight off of the car. I also made the end into a triangular shape to again take off weight, but also try to make my car more aerodynamic. After I sketched the body, I modeled it in Inventor. I used dimensions for my sketch to model my body. I completed the sketch, but I realized it was not that good. So I talked to my brother, who was a mechanical engineer, and he helped me make a new design with less weight and better aerodynamics. My old design was not aerodynamic and it had way too much weight. With the help of my brother, I found ways to combat this by making my new design a lot smaller and thinner and adding more aerodynamic shapes. This design was a bit more complex and I struggled a bit designing it, but I got it done and was ready to create drawings in Inventor for it. The drawings I needed to create were an exploded assembly and a drawing for the model of the body. We made these drawings similar to how a manufactured part needs drawings in order to be created. Finally, I printed out the front, top, and right side views of my body to trace them on my wood to cut out. The first step in constructing my custom body was tracing it on the wood. I did my front view first because I needed to cut the general shape of my car before doing the right side and then the top. I needed to make relief cuts in order to cut the curves on my car or else the bandsaw would break. I cut my pieces off with the bandsaw and smoothed out the rough edges left by the relief cuts. Next, I drilled my axle holes to the correct constraints, and I moved on to tracing my right side, cutting it, and sanding, and finished off with cutting the top of the custom body and sanding it. I actually was not finished though, because while sanding, I began to get into the CO2 cartridge hole, so I filled it up with wood filler and I was ready to paint. In this picture on the bottom right, you can see the hole that was left from sanding it. And in these two pictures, you can see the before where I had a big hole in the top of my car and the after where I filled it up with wood filler. For my paint job, I wanted to look like the American flag, so I painted it red, white, and blue. I began by painting the sides red and blue and taping off the middle. After that was dry, I taped off the ends to make the middle white. Next, I taped off the top and painted the bottom all blue. To make my car look even better, I made stars on the blue by holding the spray paint can far away and spraying the blue part. I cleaned up the lines on the spray paint to add the finishing touches so I could move to the last step before racing. You can see in this picture on the right the stars that I added on the blue part. The first thing I did in assembling my car was to cut straws to the length of the body. This allowed the axles to be inserted in the straws and spin with little friction. I then put washers on all ends of the axles and put my tires on. The last step was to screw in my eye hooks to the bottom so when my dragster was going, it would stay straight since fishing line ran through the eye hooks from the start to the finish. Here's some more pictures from my assembly. My car ended up winning the bracket. There was only one time where my CO2 cartridge did not fire, but we ended up redoing the race and I won. I also had trouble with my eye hooks dragging on the ground and creating friction. So before the final race, I screwed them in better and it seemed to help. This project was all about the engineering design process and working through the steps to reach a final product. My favorite thing about engineering is watching an idea come to life, and that's why I really like this project. I had a lot of fun on this project, and I can't wait for next semester. I just want to give a special shout out to Mr. West and my brother for helping me finish this project up, and thank you for watching.